What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the stock option recap for February 16th, 2021. The Dow Jones is up 0.2%, the Nasdaq is down 0.34%, and the S&P is down 0.06%. Now, before we get into the video, be sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and also be sure to hit that notification bell because we go live market open to market close Monday through Friday, so you'll definitely want to hit that notification bell so you can be notified when we go live. Now, as you can see on the SPY here, we opened up at all-time highs. In pre-market, I'm pretty sure we were a point or two higher. I think the highest point was 396 something, but we ended up selling off a little bit here in the morning, and the only piece of news that I saw while we were selling off here was that the 10-year treasury bond was almost at 1.3%. I don't believe that's really a mover of the market, but some people could be taking profits off these stocks that are hitting all-time highs and getting ready to transfer into bonds. There's a lot of big money that goes into bonds, so you always got to be aware of that. I was considering taking a SPY daily play here at 391.58. All the indicators were indicating that the SPY was getting super oversold and that there was going to be a little bit of a bounce, so you could have made at least 100-200% on a daily SPY play here, but I didn't end up taking it. It's always kind of sketchy when the market just starts selling off pretty big with no piece of news. Sometimes I just hesitate on the play, but in this case it would have worked out decently. Not the biggest percent point, but I mean, you're not going to get 100-200% profit in many other places. Now, when I'm looking at these SPY daily options, I always trade at the money. There's no point in usually getting out the money on these because they move so slow. Better to just get in the money right away on those, and they expire worthless at the end of the day, so it's just better to have them in the money. The time decay doesn't go down quite as fast when you're at the money or in the money. You just got to have a decent stop loss on there. But I'm usually always looking for a daily contract on the SPY when it's available. I just don't take the play every single time because sometimes the risk to reward isn't there. The options usually tell you what kind of move the market is expecting the SPY to make, so if it's a really cheap contract, I'm usually not trying to take it because it means the SPY is going to move in a very small range on the day. But this is the stock market and anything can happen. Now let's get into some individual stock names that made some pretty big moves. Bank stocks overall made some pretty big moves, but the best option plays in my opinion were on Bank of America. You could have got these 34 calls. Earlier in the morning for $25, and they actually ended up going to 70 at the top. That's almost a 200% move on there, and pretty much all of the bank stocks went pretty crazy. JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, Goldman Sachs has been going insane, but as far as the options, I just think Bank of America had the most upside on the day, so that's why I chose to talk about Bank of America here. But overall, I'm not going to be getting in any bank plays for a while. They're all really expensive. I've been looking at Citi puts for June, but I just want to give it a little more time because if Citi starts to catch up to the other bank stocks, I should be able to get a lot better of a price on the longer term options on here. I'm going to keep my eye out on the banks and mostly Citi for the put side. I know the market's pretty bullish, but if I can get a longer term contract on Citi for cheap, then I'm about it, because if we get any sort of volatility downwards, they should be pretty good, and Citi has been the underperformer in the bank sector. Now, another stock that's made some pretty big moves is CCL. A lot of people were talking about this one last week because the put to call ratio was extremely high. A lot of people were really bullish on CCL, and it ended up gapping up here early in the morning and made one of the biggest moves it's made in a really long time. You could have actually got these 22 calls for about 27 cents this morning, and they ended up going up to $90. They even closed at about $90. A little over a 200% move there on the daily options, but a lot of people are expecting CCL to continue, so maybe if it continues with a lot of momentum, it might be good on the longer term contracts, but a lot of these options are really expensive. These March ones are only up about 100%, and maybe you could get some Aprils for a little bit cheaper. It looks like the Marches are the ones that didn't go up the most, but these are really far out of the money, so probably just gonna be patient with CCL. Hopefully we can get in there before it makes a huge move upwards, and maybe even RCL. I didn't even notice this one until now. You could have got these 75 calls for the same price as the CCL ones, and these went all the way up to $180. almost a 800-700% move there, so that's really insane. Another stock that made a pretty decent move in the morning but ended up selling off was DoorDash. You could have got these 250 calls for really cheap this morning. They ended up coming back down to the same price as they opened at. A little more expensive for a weekly, but you could have got these for $40 this morning, and they went all the way up to $260, which is a pretty big move. It's about 600%, I believe. Pretty decent move on the weekly contract. Like I said, a little more expensive, $40 for a weekly. Kind of expensive in my opinion, but a lot of upside there on DoorDash in the morning. But the contracts ended up just coming back to break even at the end of the day. So the only way you would have profited immensely on DoorDash is if you would have picked it up right in the morning. Another real surprising stock that I didn't expect at all was X, United States Steel. We were actually talking about this one last week, and I was looking at some longer dated contracts that were pretty cheap, but this stock ended up making huge moves today, surprisingly. You could have got these 17.5 calls for $20 this morning, and they went all the way up to 120s. That's about another 600% move there on the weekly contracts, and even some of the March contracts went up a lot. I believe we were looking at these 24 calls last week for March 19th, and they were only like 18 cents, and even those closed at $45. A little over 100% move there. Pretty good on a longer term contract. I think there's a little too much premium there now, but still a pretty crazy move because this stock has not moved that big in quite a long time. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with this. Now, those are just some of the option plays I was looking at throughout the day. I do not really recommend those for any plays because the premiums are already up hundreds of percent, but that's just the point of this video, is to show you how option pricing moves when certain stocks make bigger sized moves. Some of these options can actually go crazy, but as far as individual stock moves, a lot of people have been talking about CCIV. This made a huge move today. There was a news drop that the $12 billion Lucid Motors merger is almost completed, and this stock was trading around $40 when that news dropped, and it ended up ripping all the way above $50 to almost $55. So CCIV is pretty crazy. A lot of people have been talking about that, but me personally, I'm not a huge fan just because I don't know anything about it, but it's looking really good. It's already up 500% just on the month. Amazon had some news that affected Shopify, that they bought an Australian company called Selz, S-E-L-Z. I don't believe it's a publicly traded company, but Shopify actually made a move downwards off that news, but they ended up recovering because they have earnings in the morning tomorrow. So be on the lookout for a continuation play with Shopify. If it does really good on the earnings, I'm not sure what they're pricing in, but if we see a bigger size move on Shopify and we can maybe get into some cheaper calls for the weekly, might be able to get a decent continuation play on there, but we'll just have to be careful on that one because Shopify is really expensive. Now, the final piece of news was after hours. Berkshire Hathaway updated their SEC filing, but they actually ended up adding Chevron, Verizon, and Marsh & McLennan to their holdings, and they dissolved a couple of their other positions. I wasn't able to find the full list of the dissolved stock, but I was able to find the new stocks they added to their holdings, and it's just those three: Chevron, Verizon, and Marsh & McLennan. I actually have a longer term Verizon play that has been down like 30-40% or something like that, so it's going to be interesting to see how that opens. As far as that, the news has been pretty slow. The bond yields have been coming up a lot. You guys have any options, stocks, or news that you guys have seen throughout the day? Be sure to post them down in the comments below. As far as stock plays I'm going to be looking at personally, I'm going to be looking at Apple longer term contracts. I've been stocking the July contracts, and they're starting to come down to a price that's decently favorable, still kind of expensive, but I'm liking the option charts here. I like Facebook longer term contracts as well, but Facebook actually came up a little bit today, and the contracts I've been watching are up like $20-$30, so I'm just going to be a little bit patient on Facebook. I don't think it's quite ready to break out yet, and like I said, I'm going to be watching Citi for the longer term Citi put. I'm not sure when I'm going to be getting into these. I would like to get a little bit closer to the money for a cheaper price, but I'm just going to be patient on these longer term contracts. There's no need to rush into them. I want to get a really good price on those, and a lot of them are really far out the money, at least the ones I want, so just not trying to overpay. Better to be late than wrong, in my opinion. So yeah, that about wraps up the stock options recap for February 16th, 2021. If you guys have any questions, news, stocks, options that you guys are looking at, be sure to leave them in the comments below. Also, be sure to hit that like button, that subscribe button, and that notification bell so you can be notified when we go live. We're live market open to market close Monday through Friday, so you'll definitely want to hit that notification bell so you can be notified the second we go live. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.